Yo, what is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to episode 21 of the Tracksuit to the Top series here with Lewes FC in the Vanarama Conference. Hopefully you guys are good. Today I've got for you guys a live com in the FA Cup first round against Crewe Alexandra. If we win this, we will go into the second round and play Luton, who are in League 2. It's not going to be an easy game for us, but there's a lot to cover before we even get into today's game. If you missed last episode, you really need to check it out, because a lot of what's happened and what I'm going to talk about today is as a result of what's happened I guess since the last episode. But anyway, a quick look at the results since the last episode. So last episode we did draw 1-1 with Braintree. Since then we beat Eastleigh 2-1. Eastleigh beat us 2-1. They scored a very late goal here. As you can see, Joe Doyle, 86th minute for them. That was pretty painful to take. But on the back of that, three league wins in a row and an FA Cup win. But just flicking through these, you'll see a few unusual names perhaps. I forgot to mention this last episode as well. In the game against Dartford, Craig Mullen, our goalkeeper, was taking the penalties. And I made a mental note after that game that I needed to take him off penalties because it could backfire one day. Granted, he does have 13 penalty kick taken and 11 composure. So he got 2 as a goalkeeper. Against Woking, it was 2-2 in the 89th minute, and he stepped up and scored a penalty again for us. He has now been removed from penalty duties for the most part, but that was his 3rd goal of the season in that 3-2 win against Woking, which was the big game out of all of these. A fantastic performance by him. And a good team performance, a good comeback. But anyway, as I mentioned last episode, something big happened, and if you haven't bothered to watch last episode, or in case you're feeling a little bit rusty, just to refresh your memory, we sold Matthew Lewis. He's on his way out. He's going to be leaving us in January to join Newcastle for £3.25 million. As a result of that deal, I had an injection of about £800,000 into my transfer budget to bring in new players. Following on from that, I reinvested a lot of that into the wage budget, so I changed our wage budget from what was around £8,000 to £14,000, almost doubling it. And we've still got a good amount of money left. You know, it's a big increase in our wages, and it's going to increase our costs. But with us now having about £2 million sitting in the bank there or thereabouts, I can afford to kind of take the risk, I guess, by investing that much into the squad. But you're probably wondering to yourselves, who could you have brought in, Jack? And how many players have you brought in to almost double your wage budget? Well, for you people who would be asking that question, you're probably not asking that question. But if you were, there is a perfectly logical explanation. It's the fact that I've actually signed 12 players since the last episode. This is the most players I've ever signed before, away from the start of a season ever in a Football Manager, I reckon. So end of October, start of November, 12 players came in. Fortunately, our league doesn't have any registration rules, so all these players have been able to play. All these players are going to follow a similar trend, so to identify and show you guys how I found them, I first need to go and show you a few of the players who we signed earlier on in the year. So you guys will know that players like Jake Hesketh, we signed right at the start of the season from Southampton as a trainee. And I kind of talked about how I'd looked at Southampton because I knew they were a local side to me, and I'd looked at kind of their players they'd released in their transfer history. And I saw the fact that Barnes and Hesketh were there. Well, with all this extra money in the bank, I decided to go back and look through all the London-based Premier League teams and kind of southern-based teams in the Premier League. That includes Bournemouth, who got promoted, and a few other teams, and try and pick up some of the trainees who perhaps hadn't been picked up by teams in the first few months of the year. And that's where a lot of these players come from that you're now going to see me go through. So these players are fantastic players. Some of them are on very big wages. A few of them are probably familiar names. A few certainly from Arsenal. I'd be surprised if at least Arsenal fans don't recognise. A few from QPR, I think, a few more from Southampton on top of the ones we already brought in. But anyway, let's get into these players because there's a lot to cover. So the first one is John Torrell. Hope I'm saying that right. This guy is a Spaniard. He actually comes from Arsenal. He was released at the end of last year. And he's a fantastic little player, great centre mid. He's probably one of the worst players we've actually brought in, but that's nothing to be ashamed of because, as you can see, he'd be a good player for most teams in our division. Good composure, very loyal, a very good player in the centre midfield, and a very useful player to have. And he's come in on £400 a week, which is not a small amount by any means, but given the quality that he adds to our team, and given how good he is for a team in our division, I'm more than happy to take the hit on that. Anyway, the next player is Robert Dickey. I actually brought him in initially thinking he'd be one of our bigger players. I signed him from Reading, who've been promoted to the Premier League this year in FM. So when I was going through the Premier League teams, he was one of the players who came up who had been released. So I checked him out, liked the look of him. We've brought him in. again, leading player for this division, has a fair few weaknesses, but he's actually now our third choice centre-back, and he's a very good player at that, and he's only on £650 a week, which again, you know, it is a hefty amount, but there's some real quality there for our division. Next player in is Ryan Seeger. This guy was the first player who I kind of signed during this signing spree, or at least the first player I eyed up. A few players perhaps came in before him, but the reason I brought him in was because I was looking for a replacement for Matthew Lewis. We needed a striker, we needed a player who was going to be able to really step things up after January, and this guy's kind of got off the mark flying. As you can see, 4 goals in 3 appearances, one of which was off the bench, 2 player of the matches, an average rating of 8.07. I'm really hoping that after January he's going to be able to kind of carry on from where Matthew Lewis left off and really be our leading man. He's an absolutely incredible player. In many aspects, he's probably better than Matthew Lewis. You can see as an advanced forward, he's just really good at this role. Composure perhaps lets him down a tad, but with the exception of that, the former Southampton trainee is a fantastic player for us, and you know, coming in on a free, he's now the most valuable player in the squad at 300k. Fantastic signing. Probably my favourite signing out of all the players he brought in during this period is Isaac Hayden. He's a player who's actually sat on the bench a few times for Arsenal this year. Yeah, you can actually see he has played a few games for them, and last year he was on loan at Wrexham, where he really wasn't given that much of a shot, which is a little bit surprising. But we've brought him in. He's a fantastic player. I'm actually playing him at Anchorman. You guys will know I was playing the 4-2-3-1 system prior to all these transfers coming in. I really wanted to switch to a slightly more conservative shape in midfield, in terms of instead of having the centre attacking mid, have a anchorman or at least a defensive midfielder to offer some protection to the back 4. And one of the issues I had, and one of the reasons I couldn't do this, was simply because I didn't have very good defensive-minded midfielders. Isaac Hayden ticks all the boxes as a defensive player. You can see he'd be a good player for most League 2 sides. His poor tackling lets him down a little bit, and his marking lets him down, which, you know, they are cons for an anchorman, but realistically, 12 marking and 10 tackling in this division is perfectly fine. I'm very, very happy to have him at the club, and I think he's certainly a player to keep an eye out on. He has actually got a goal since he came to the club. That came from a free kick, and he also has got an assist in that time, so he's really got off the mark flying. Next player we have here is Michael Potresso, we'll go with it. I'm pretty sure this guy has Canadian nationality. He does. So he's got partially Canadian nationality. He currently plays in the Italian under-21 squad. I believe we got him from QPR. Did we get him from QPR? We did. You can see last year he actually played 31 games in League 2. So to have him come to ourselves on a free is a very good piece of business. Only on £500 a week. Really like this guy because he's either-footed and he can play on either wing. He does have a few underlying weaknesses. If we look at the report here, you can see that his intelligence on the pitch is a little bit poor. His personality isn't great, but he's a leading player for this division. He's very good at playing on either wing, and because he's both-footed, he's a very versatile player and an ideal player to have on the pitch, and should we get injuries elsewhere, he's more than capable of filling in, and particularly in a league where we only have 5 players on the bench, that's very, very valuable. Anyway, the next player is Elliot Lee. We signed him from West Ham. He's going to be on the bench for us a lot of the time, this guy, but at 21 years old, he has a few problems with injuries, but I'm hoping to get beyond that. He's a really good player to have coming off the bench. Obviously, we have Matthew Lewis and Seeger, who are ahead of him in the squad at the moment, but then when Matthew Lewis leaves in January, there is going to be a spot for Elliot Lee to really come on off the bench and hopefully make an impact for us. You can see last year he played for Barnet, where he didn't play great, but the year before that he played for Barnet and got 9 goals in 19 games in this division. So he's more than capable of grabbing a goal or two playing for us. You can also see he did play for West Ham once. So good player, good free transfer. I don't think he's on that bigger of wages as well, only £350, which compared to some of the other players we've brought in is fairly cheap. Anyway, next player is Jordan Turnbull. A player who some of you guys may know from Dr. Benji's Swindon lot save, because he was on loan at Swindon. He was actually released from Southampton along with a few of the other players we've already brought into the side. We've signed him. I think he's a really good centre-back. I love how good he is in the air. His physicals are really good. Perhaps his pace lets him down a little bit, but regardless, he's a fantastic player to have in this division. Not on the smallest wages, but he already has a little bit of chemistry with a few of the other former Southampton players we have, so I'm hoping to make the most of that. Next player we have in is Aaron Tashibola, we'll go with it. I'm sorry if I've butchered your name, Aaron. I'll just call you Aaron from now on. He's from the Democratic Republic of Congo. You can see he's actually an international for them. He's played 6 games and he's only 21. He was released by Reading. You can see last year he played in League 2, and the year before that he played in League 2 well. So he's played at the level above us for quite some time, and he's not performed great there, but he was still young at the time. You can see he's come to us now. He's 21 years old, has some great physicals, certainly a very useful player to have, and a bit of international talent in the squad goes a long way. Next player we have in is Jonathan, oh gosh, Muel. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I'm just going to call you Johnny. I hope you don't mind. Right, anyway, Jonathan answers on a postcard. Mulber. We'll call you Mulber. Jonathan Mulber. Anyway, Now I've finished butchering that name. He's another player who plays for the Democratic Republic of Congo. Another player released. He was released by Chelsea. In fact, no, he wasn't. That's a lie. He was released by Bournemouth. He was released by Bournemouth. He actually played 11 games for them in the Championship. Didn't play well in any of those games. He joins us this year on a free transfer. A great little player, I think. He's only on £200 a week. He's a fantastic fullback at this level. He's going to be a very useful player for us. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on. Naturally a centre-back, but his lack of aerial ability kind of hinders him there, so we're going to look to develop him. Next player we have is Dominic Hyam. This guy, Scottish under-21s player. You can see he was released by Reading. He's joined us. He played a few games last year for Mansfield in League 2. A lot of these players have been loaned out at the teams they've come from and that they were released from, the leagues above our own, and they've kind of performed semi-decently there for the most part, so taking a step down to our division is only going to kind of, I hope, make them perform even better. So he's a very good player. The next player we have in is Nana Owusu. He's actually 20 years old. He doesn't have a work permit, and that's a little bit annoying because he's probably the best player who we've picked up really on a free, if I'm honest. He's just a fantastic player, great determination, some really nice physicals. If we look at his report, leading player for League 2 players, but yeah, no work permit. So you're probably wondering, well, why have I signed him if he's not kind of got a work permit? Well, the reason that we've done that is because he only has less than a year now to complete in order to gain Great British nationality. So from next year, he'll be more than capable of kind of playing for the squad and actually having a work permit because he'll have British nationality. So that's useful. Another thing that I just noticed, I believe, is the fact that he may be the Ghana under-20s captain. I don't know if there's an easy way to spot that, unfortunately, but he plays a role in the under-20s side. Might be a few players here we might be able to look into signing thanks to his connections to the Cameroonian side, but he's a very good player, great fullback, happy to have him in. And the last player we brought in was another fullback actually. It was Liam Donnelly, who we signed from Fulham. He joined us on a free. Last year he played a few games for them, but one of the few players I guess who hasn't really had regular first team football at any kind of level, and he's a very good player, great potential. You can see it looking at his physicals, some nice physicals, good determination, pretty good defensive stats for a fullback, and he has some okay dribbling and crossing. Certainly for this level that's going to come in useful as we do play our fullbacks on attack. But anyway, that gives you an idea of all the different changes that have happened lately, of which there's been a lot. I apologise if that was tough to keep track of. But yeah, we've kind of had to go and reinvent the side, and I'm hoping it's going to pay off for us. It's certainly a gamble, and it's something that I've not taken lightly, but I honestly feel like to progress we needed to bring in some new players. We'd got a lot of money from the Matthew Lewis deal, and I really wanted to invest that. And because we've avoided actually paying any fees for these players, we've saved a hell of a lot of money. A lot of these players are on pretty substantial wages for this level, but I believe a lot of them will be more than capable of making the step up next year if we were to get promoted and play in the League One. Looking at the table as a result of all the wins we've had in a row, which I kind of feel like there's no coincidence that these wins, 4 in a row, which is the most wins we've had in a row all year, is not down to just purely coincidence. It is really down to the new players we have, which are still gelling. You know, there isn't that much cohesion there, and they still don't know the tactics, but they're just pure quality has made a huge difference. But if we look at the league table, as you can see, we've really closed down the gap. We've made a massive difference, and we're really plugging away. We're the top goal scoring team in the league with 43 goals, which is absolutely incredible. And looking at our goal difference, we have joint best goal difference in the league. So things are looking up, certainly. If we can continue to go on the kind of form we're on, Wycombe are 9 points clear. That's not going to be easy to close down, but we've only lost 4 all year. It's just those draws. If we hadn't drawn as many as we had, we'd be right up there. But anyway, I feel like I've rambled a lot this episode, but I needed to keep you guys in the loop in terms of who's come in. So today we are going to be playing Crewe. They are a League One team. I'm not expecting us to go out there and absolutely outplay them, but looking at our side here, you can kind of see what's going on. We have Craig Mullen, who's one of the few players who kind of started this season in the side, still in the side. He's a great goalkeeper. As I mentioned, he scored 3 goals this year from penalties, but he's certainly been a very good player for us since he joined us on a free transfer, and he retained his spot because I couldn't find a decent goalkeeper to replace him with, and it's kind of nice to have the few regens here and there. Next player we have is Liam Donnelly, who I already introduced. Hyman Turnbull starting midfield. Mulber doesn't sound right. I'm sorry, Jonathan. We're playing him at left back. Not ideal because he is right-footed, but he can play there. Isaac Hayden's going to be our big anchor man. In midfield, we go with Hesketh, who of course was already at the club. Jake's a big player for us, and I'm hoping he's going to be able to continue from where he left off and where he's kind of been playing this year, especially with a better quality of players around him. The next player we have is Chibola. I'm going to struggle with these names, I'm sorry. But he's a fantastic player in centre mid. He's going to be playing deep line playmaker for us. Out on the left, we go with Petrasso. Out on the right, we go with Marcus Barnes. A few familiar faces up in the final third. And then last but not least, leading the line is going to be Matthew Lewis. However, we have got options on the bench such as Ryan Seeger. So anyway, that's our side. As I mentioned, a bit of a big kind of turnaround. We can actually have 2 more spaces on the bench today because it's the FA Cup. So we'll bring on a few players to give us a bit more in the way of options and flexibility should we get injuries. But there's the team. This is a good team. As I mentioned, a lot of these players I do believe are League 2 quality. I'd be interested to know down in the comments, guys, if there's a few of the players who I showed off who you're particularly interested in. Maybe you're an Arsenal fan and you recognise Terrell and Isaac Hayden. Isaac Hayden's probably the biggest name we've brought in. Seeger's a pretty useful player from Southampton. I'm really surprised he got released and that no one picked him up. But we're going to look to capitalise on that, and we'll see how we get on here anyway. But anyway, Hesketh, Lewis, can we get off to a flyer, boys? Can we get off to a flyer? Because we are playing against the mighty Crew. Crew aren't the strongest League 1 team by any means. The draw could have been a lot harsher on us for the first round. But I don't necessarily expect us to win here. But if we can show our quality, that would be fantastic. Barnes, bang that in. Oh, he's missed a sitter. He has missed a sitter. Outrageous. I had so much faith in him to go and bang in the ball, and he's missed it. Anyway, looking at the stats, we've actually had an okay start, really. There's not been a lot going either way. Stuart Atwell is the ref. This game is on TV. We are playing on a Monday night. So the draw has already been made for the next round. I did mention that at the start of the episode, the fact that it was against Luton, the winner of this. But yeah, Monday night kickoff, FA Cup, and Atkinson's just missed a sitter for them, so thank you. Giving us a second chance. Mullen with the good initial save, but we're just a little bit slow reacting to the rebound, but chance hasn't gone anywhere. I am sticking with our attacking system, which is a little bit of a gamble against Crew, but at the same time I feel like we kind of have to do that. I want to get these players, especially the new ones, used to our system that we're playing, and chopping and changing between matches probably isn't ideal. So we'll see how we get on here. But anyway, we're looking to work the ball out wide. Mueba, Donnelly with a chance. That's the second clear-cut chance that's gone our way, and we are still yet to hit the target. Really poor finishing on show by us. Certainly not ideal. And it looks like at half-time it's going to go in all square, which is okay, to be fair. It's okay. Right, so anyway, unlucky boys. Okay, that was a mistake. There's a lot to come. Okay, I've just fucked up the team talk. If we lose, blame me entirely. I thought unlucky boys, it hasn't been gone our way so far, was an okay team talk considering we're all over them and we've missed 2 clear-cut chances, but apparently not. Apparently the players are not happy with that team talk, so hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us. As I mentioned, the fact we've had more clear-cut chances than Crew's a good sign. We have got some options on off the bench potentially if we want to bring them on, but long set piece here. Crew with the big ball in. Johnny boy gives away a penalty. Disappointing. And now Mullen needs to turn hero. Of course, last year we did go on a bit of an FA Cup run. It'd be nice to do the same again, but I'm not really as expectful. Mullen goes the right way. Couldn't get a strong enough palm behind it. Jordan Robertson with the goal there for Crew to make it 1-0. Really disappointing to concede from a penalty. You can play well, but if you're going to give away penalties and then concede them, then that's kind of... What's the word? That's kind of... Well, there isn't anything you can do about it, but it's just kind of frustrating, I guess. But anyway, we're 25 minutes left. I'm going to look to make some changes. We're going to bring on Ben Bacon for Spola. And I'm also going to take off Matthew Lewis. He's certainly not played to his best. A 6.1 rating. I must admit, ever since I've accepted the offer from Newcastle for him, his form has tailed off a little bit. He's certainly not been the goal scorer that he was before. I've been trying to give Seeger a lot more time as well. Let's just go for a touchline team talk and encourage the boys. Not long left of the game. We should probably go a little bit more direct, just because there's not long left. But anyway, Crew on the attack here. Robertson, there are options around him. He plays it to Meredith. Hayden not marking very tightly then. Atkinson with a chance to make it 2. He does make it 2. Crew, I think, going to coast away here to a victory, which is a little bit disappointing because, in my opinion, we've probably been the better team. It's just a penalty, and then losing the momentum there was hard. And Crew just perhaps with a tad more bit quality. That doesn't make any sense. A tad bit more quality. Just in front of goal has put us to the sword, really. 2-0. Disappointing considering last year's FA Cup run, but they are a League One team, to only lose 2-0, that's certainly not too bad. And it's worth remembering a lot of these players in this side are only playing their maybe second or third game together. So I'm going to tell the boys they were unlucky. Now they love the fact that I told them they were unlucky. But apparently the penalty was controversial. So that's my excuse. The ref screwed us over. He hates us. Persecution. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap things up for today. Unfortunately, couldn't get a win to retain our cup run. But as I mentioned before, please let me know which of our free transfers you think is the best one. Torrell, Dickey, Seeger, Hayden, Petrasso, Elliot Lee, Turnbull, Tishbola, Mulber, or Muleba? I don't know. Answers on a postcard. Hyam, Owusu, or Donnelly. Let me know. Let me know. And of course, you can go back to see how good they are. But anyway, that's going to wrap things up from me. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button. Other than that, if you've got any comments about the players I made, any familiar names, any recommendations for other players I might want to take a look at who sometimes get released, leave them down in the comments. And other than that, I will see you guys next episode for episode 22.